On Romania's pro-European coalition has collapsed this Tuesday. Lawmakers voted against Prime Minister Ilie Bolojan yesterday, a year after he was sworn in. This is triggering fresh turmoil in Romania. The no-confidence vote was a blow to Bolojan, who came to power with the aim of ending one of Romania's worst political crises in its post-communist history. Romania has faced a long period of instability after the annulment of a presidential election in December 2024. The country has also struggled with one of the highest budget deficits in the European Union, rampant inflation and a technical recession. In June, when the coalition was voted in, it pledged to reduce the budget deficit, making it a top priority. Emerald Maxwell takes up the story.
10 months after coming to power, Romania's government has lost a motion of no confidence. The Social Democrats, or PSD, walked out of the four-party coalition government at the end of April, before teaming up with the far-right AUR to bring down the Prime Minister after he pushed for austerity measures to reduce the deficit.
10 months ago, I came here to do what is necessary, not what is popular. Romania had the largest deficit in the European Union, 9.3% of GDP. I didn't create it. I inherited it. And the coalition decided to fix it. We got here because previous governments postponed reforms.
The Prime Minister may remain in office until a new government is sworn in, but with limited powers. He had pledged to reduce Romania's public deficit, which reached 7.9% of GDP in the fourth quarter of 2025. Bucharest has been subject to an EU excessive deficit procedure since 2020 and risks losing EU funds.
First and foremost, Romania needs political stability. The crisis is deepening. What's most important is that Romania doesn't lose the money coming from the EU.
The no-confidence motion now threatens to revive the turmoil, marked by the annulment of presidential elections over allegations of Russian interference in December 2024. The pro-EU president, Nicu Sordan, will begin holding talks with political parties. He has said that the country of 19 million people will keep its pro-Western direction, ruling out the possibility of a far-right government.
Emerald there with the report. Let's deepen the analysis and bring in Laurențiu Pleșca, who's a policy fellow at the German Marshall Fund of the United States, joining us live from Romania's capital city, Bucharest. Laurențiu, thanks for being with us. I'm wondering, from your standpoint, did you see this crisis coming?
I mean, it was something that many political analysts, many people in Romania have thought about it because, of course, we remember the annulment of the elections just recently. And, of course, there were measures that were took by this government in order to improve economic life of Romania. So after more political decisions that were unpopular, of course, that the main political parties lost their percentages in the political polls. But I think that the fall of Romania's Bolojan government carries significant implications because it was, first of all, a significant, overwhelming vote of 281 in the parliament. So, of course, it was a deal between the Social Democrats and the far-right, our party, and it was the fact that it lands at the moment when Romania is managing a fragile fiscal recovery. So basically, there is a hard EU funding deadline that is in August, actually. There is no time to lose here, and of course the stakes are very high for the Romanian economy because the Bolojan government did the difficult work of bringing the deficit, the economic deficit, down from 9.3 to 7.9 of GDP under a year. So that is the largest single year correction in the European Union. But of course the political arithmetic actually actually supports moving quickly after the government fall. Of course, the government will be 45 days in place, and it will basically be an intermediary government. But it is reassuring that President Dan also has ruled out any coalition with the far-right hour, which basically, in theory, accelerates negotiations between actually the same parties that were forming the Bolojan government. It is really important here to mention also that the risk here for the next government is not about ideology, because it was about domestical issues. So we can stay reassured that Romania's Western orientation is not in question, because the risk is that, of course, Romania would move to other direction than integration more broadly into
Laurențiu,
the EU,
can I ask you
NATO.
about that? Because this issue about precisely why this has happened and whether there was some kind of influence behind this, and to mention the name that everybody's trying to shout out, Russian influence behind this. Is that at play here? Or is it, as you say, purely about a domestic issue regarding the economy?
It is about domestic issue, of course, but the security, the foreign policy of Romania is not changing actually, because there will not be a different government formed from different political parties. It was just a no confidence vote for the actual government that took unpopular decisions. The fall of the Bolojan government does not alter Romania's foreign policy or security trajectory, because the outgoing cabinet described it as a purely resistance to reform. Of course, if there will be this scenario of snap elections, if the political parties will not negotiate and form a new government very soon, this will be indeed a Russia win here in the NATO eastern flank, and it will be a big problem for Romania, EU, and NATO's future. But of course, the mediator of this political crisis, Nicușor Dan, is actually very active on keeping a pro-European coalition that will govern in the next years. And this is the takeaway here, because there will be no government with a party that promotes maybe Russian values. It will be purely a new government with a different political figure that will be more popular among the traditional political parties, national liberals and social democrats.
Laurențiu, thank you so much for that analysis. We appreciate it. Laurențiu Pleșca, a policy fellow at the German Marshall Fund of the United States, joining us live from Romania's capital, Bucharest. Thank you, sir, once again. We will watch for developments after that collapse of Romania's pro-EU administration there. No threat to Romania's status, according to our guest, Laurențiu Pleșca.